वक्रतुण्ड महाकाय सूर्यकोटिसमप्रभ निर्विघ्नं कुरु मे देव सर्वकार्येषु सर्वदा। ॐ गं गणपतये नमः। ॐ गं गणपतये नमः। ॐ गं गणपतये नमः। ॐ साईश्वराय विद्महे सत्यदेवाय धीमहि तन्नः सर्वः प्रचोदयात्। ॐ साईश्वराय विद्महे सत्यदेवाय धीमहि तन्नः सर्वः प्रचोदयात्। ॐ साईश्वराय विद्महे सत्यदेवाय धीमहि तन्नः सर्वः प्रचोदयात्। ॐ
या देवी सर्वभूतेषु चेतनेत्यभिधीयते नमस्तस्यै 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 नमो नमः। या देवी सर्वभूतेषु चेतनेत्यभिधीयते नमस्तस्यै 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 नमो नमः। या देवी सर्वभूतेषु चेतनेत्यभिधीयते नमस्तस्यै 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 नमो नमः।
Namaste. Welcome to Kaivalya Yoga Gurukulam, KYG. Thank you for taking time to join the satsang and bless it with your virtual presence. As always, we are very grateful for your presence. It is the energy of us together that makes this learning so conducive and so mutual. I am but an instrument. The divine Shakti is the one who teaches, and we all learn. So, in today's satsang, we proceed with the Devi Khadgamala, learning of it. In the last satsang, we learned the importance of 8 and the 8 petals that we are going to explore in this Avarna, or gate, or sheath, if you will. This new perspective that we are getting into this cosmic principle that eventually resides within us. We have to keep reminding ourselves. So bear with me if I sound I'm repeating and like a broken record, just repeating it's within us, but it is so important. We believe and we begin to realize all of these energies that we are invoking, these Shakti principles are within us. Because ultimately in Bhavopanishad, in Sri Chakra worship, in Sri Vidya worship, in Bhava Upanishad, we learn that all of this is within us. So why not begin right from the beginning? So we go to the slides now. We begin with the third Avarna, the 8 petals. And this is that beautiful vision of the 8 petals that you get. What are these 8 petals? We will begin to explore. I hope to cover 3 or 4 today in today's class, and hopefully in the next class. Whenever I cover a topic, or whenever you feel you've heard one, don't close your mind saying, aha, I got it. Say we are just touching the fringe of understanding that one particular petal, that one particular Shakti. And with that humility, embrace that learning and keep that door open for further learning, further perspectives. You might meet another teacher, another book, another perspective might be presented for that same place. And then that enriches what you already know. So there is no this or that. It is always this and this and this and this, because there are so many layers that is revealed. What is the beauty of these 8 petals? In this Avarna, what is it that we are going to learn? In the last Avarna, if you know, we learned about Akarshana Shakti. So everything was Akarshana, Buddhya Akarshani, and so on. We went to Shabda Akarshani, Rasa Akarshani, Akarshani, which is attraction. We learned about attraction power. Everything was so close to us that it almost became our second nature. So attracted that was, right? In this, we are going to learn about Ananga. Ananga. This is the word that you will hear in all these 8 petals. Ananga something, Ananga something, Ananga something, Ananga something. Ananga. Ananga means infinite. Now there are many perspectives, like I said. One of the most common and popular perspective is it's called love or Cupid and things like that. That is one way to look at it. But I mindfully use this word infinite. Why? Anga, Ananga. Anga, Ananga. Anga means a limb, a portion, a part, something finite, something tangible is Anga. This body has many angas, many limbs. I can touch and feel different angas, right? So this body itself is one anga, you can say. So these are all angas. With form, anything with name is an anga. But when you go ananga, it means formless. It means limitless. There is no way you can determine the size of it, the nature of it, if you will, the circumference of it, if you will. And therefore it is called Ananga. So why is it that many popular versions of Sri Chakra worship, and when you learn or read books, they talk about love in this? Ananga means love. Ananga means Cupid. Because love is infinite. Now, if you ask a 2-year-old or a 3-year-old, how much do you love your mom? And he or she will spread their hands out and say, this much. And say, only that much? Then they'll go even further and say, oh no, this much. And they'll keep going, spreading the hands. They're trying to indicate that I don't know how much, but something like this, something big, right? And that is what is Ananga. So love, how can you say how much you love somebody? You either love or don't love, but once you love, you can't say, I love somebody a little bit. It's very difficult. Perhaps that is not love then. But when you love, you can't say, I love him this much, or love him 2 bottlefuls or 2 teaspoonfuls. You can't put a size to love. The intensity, the power, the passion, and all of that comes with love, you can't put a finger to it. It's Ananga. So love is like that. It is so with many emotions, but love is one such thing which is not considered really as an emotion. I mean, in our terms, in day-to-day terms, love is one of the emotions. Love, anger, love, happiness, all of that are different emotions. So yes, but that kind of love, technically in spiritual terms, is called raga. Raga means attachment. I love my wife, I love my dog, I love my children. That is attachment. That is also love, but that love has got a different form, attachment. So in that sense, that all that is limited. But when you go to prema or love means unconditional. There is really no limit in that love. There is no barriers in that love. There is no condition in, basically when you say love, there is no condition in love. If you have conditions, then it's not love. We have to work on getting love, right? So ananga can also be used in a poetic manner, in a beautiful manner, in a manner like this. You can also use it as a synonym for love. It is not wrong. But for me, anga, ananga is infinite. And the way this Sri Chakra is revealing herself to me is more of this infinite experience. In experience of infinity. I can take that and apply it to love and experience infinite love. I can take that and apply it to my Guru's grace, and I can experience infinite grace. I can experience that infinity in anywhere I want. Because when I term love in my head, it could be true with you all as well, or maybe not. But I'm sharing with you how I went to this term infinite. Why I feel comfortable with the word infinite rather than love is because in my mind, I get confused between love for materialist things, love for my wife, love my pets with love for God. I tend to get confused. So I don't want that word love or my definition of love, my understanding of love still, because prema is a very divine quality. Baba would say love is God, God is love. So that, for me, that is such a sacred thing that I can't just say this is love, that is not love, and so on. So it's like failing to define what God truly is, what the meaning of God is. So love is something like that. And so while in my own personal journey, I'm trying to understand the depth of infinite love, unconditional love, I don't want to use it in my own learning, especially when I meditate on Sri Chakra. I find it easier to go into the word infinite, because that breaks the barrier. Love, I have preconditioned ideas of what love is, and that kind of contaminates the definition of ananga in my head. And so while I'm working on that, I want to put both these perspectives to you all. So one is not different from the other. The true love is infinite. So infinite. We are going to study the energy of infinity in these 8 petals. That's how powerful this third Avarna is. It's very beautiful. So let's proceed. The first one. The first petal. Ananga, we saw that, right? Ananga. So I'm not going to use the word infinite everywhere, because I need space and I want to make it clear. What is Ananga what? Ananga Kusuma. Ananga Kusuma, yay. When we do the Archana, when we do it as a ritual, we will come to that. Right now we are just understanding the basis of all these chakra, this chakra. And then we'll come back. There are so many versions, revisions to this whole thing we have to do and learn more and more. Anyway, Ananga Kusuma, yay. Ananga Kusuma. Kusuma. So the first petal here is Kusuma. Kusuma is, I use the word flower. Kusuma means the blossom. Actually, it means blossoming of the flower, the blossoming part of it, the opening of the flower. So, in other words, it is a flower, but you got to understand not flower as presence itself, but the opening of the flower. The blooming, rather, the blooming part of it. That is very important, because the nature to bloom is infinite. In a flower, yes, it will only bloom till this, and you'll say, what else? But then in our mind, the ability to bloom, to open, and to learn, to expand is infinite. So our mind opens like a flower. And therefore, we come to the question, okay, if it is a flower, if it is a blooming of a flower, guess what flower should I imagine when I'm doing the Sri Chakra worship? At this point. That is not mentioned here. These are the layers that reveal themselves. The flower here is the lotus. Lotus. Ananga Kusuma. If it was just Kusuma, I might have also been stuck with what kind of flower was indicated here, what should be indicated. But my mind is put at rest when I think of Ananga Kusuma. Because the symbol of infinity in Hinduism, in Sanatana Dharma, in Vedic traditions, and in the Tantric traditions, in the Kundalini traditions, in all of that, is Ananga. So we studied about infinite abundance, infinite wealth, infinite knowledge in the Ashta Lakshmis in the last satsang. Lakshmi means infinity. She is capable of giving you, and that giving never ends, can never end. So that is infinite in nature. And therefore we invoke the energy of Lakshmi to enter this chakra, because it is about Ananga. And another reason why it's connected to Lakshmi is because Lakshmi, who stands for infinite grace, infinite mercy, infinite wisdom, infinite wealth, infinite knowledge, and all of that. Infinite strength, Gaja Lakshmi, Virya Lakshmi, Vidya Lakshmi, all of that, Dhana Lakshmi, Dhanya Lakshmi, right? All of that. Where does she sit? How is she sitting on? What flower is she sitting on? She sits on a lotus. She sits on a lotus, a red lotus. Saraswati sits on a white lotus. So lotus signifies infinity. Every chakra in our body, in the yoga tradition, are lotuses, padmas. Dalas are petals. So this third Avarna is 8 petals, and therefore we are introduced to the idea of a flower, and then early morning the lotus blooms, and the beauty of blooming, of a lotus blooming, is just something you need to watch. I've seen it in India, sitting and looking at a pond, waiting for the flower to bloom, and at the right time when the sun's rays touch it very beautifully, just like you and I get up from bed lazily, it opens. It's a beautiful experience. It sends thrills in the body just looking at that actual happening. And so I'm sure there are videos also of that. You can watch it and meditate on that. It's a very beautiful sight. So in this chakra, there is, in this particular petal rather, here, it is Ananga Kusuma, the power to infinitely bloom. This lotus that is within us, this energy that is within us, the energy of the flower within us, has the capacity to bloom infinitely. So anything that we step on, if it is some learning that we want, we can keep on learning. There is no limit. We put a boundary to say, okay, enough, I have learned enough, right? But there is really no limit to how much you can learn. So that is the beauty of this. So the mind, in other words, the Sahasrara, can open infinitely, allowing infinite wisdom to come. It is because of understanding these principles, my whole idea of self-realization has changed. The idea of self-realization is continually to continually bloom. Let me get it correct. Continually bloom. The blooming never stops. The moment you say, aha, I am realized, then the blooming may stop. Why put a label? Why, what is the need for a label or a title? Are you self-realized? Am I self-realized? When will I be self-realized? What is that? Is a status symbol? Facebook even doesn't ask you whether you're realized or not. We don't need that status symbol. We don't need it. Because the moment we put a status symbol to ourselves, either realized or not realized, both stop the flower from blooming. So when we at this point, when we are in the ritual, when we are doing the puja, Om Aim Hreem Shreem Aim Kleem Sau Ananga Kusumayai, then we think of all this. All of these feelings come when we think of that blooming. That blooming, when will it stop? It just goes on blooming. The capacity to bloom in us is infinite. Know that whatever you know can expand infinitely. If you're capable of love, that love is capable of expanding infinitely. And therefore, we bow to this energy within us. The Ananga Kusuma, gentle flower. It's like a bud, but it's capable of blooming. And that blooming never ends. It goes on blooming. So Sahasrara is like that. Flower is also, in the ritual, flower is connected with the element of space. Space is infinite. Flower falls in space, right? From the tree it falls. So it reminds us of space. And therefore flower is like that. Flower reminds us of space. So why? Because space is infinite. So the Ananga Kusuma is infinite, capacity to infinitely bloom. If I were to put it in one line, Ananga Kusuma, the capacity to infinitely bloom. So when you meditate on Lakshmi and she's sitting on a lotus, or Saraswati and she's sitting on a lotus, that lotus is capable of infinitely blooming. There is a temple in South India. I'm connecting lotus with infinity. There is a temple, a beautiful temple in South India, where Vishnu is lying down. So he is lying down, and from his navel comes the lotus. And he is called Ananta Padmanabha. Ananta Padmanabha. Padma means lotus. Lotus from his navel that comes out. And he is called Ananta Padmanabha. He is endless. Because when you're lying down, it means that when the Vishnu lying down means generally that there is a hidden potential that is waiting to awaken. It's lying down means it is lying in a latent form. So all of us, in our potential is latent. And what is that potential? It's an infinite potential that is lying latent. When it awakens, it becomes a little more tangible, and therefore it appears to be limited. But in its original form, it's latent. In other words, a child is born, the child is basically capable of doing anything in life. So he is Ananta Padmanabha there in the child. And then the child begins to learn one language. He limits all that learning through one language. If the child learns 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, that much opening happens. So the child can open to any amount of potential, right? So Ananta, but the beauty of, I was going to the name, I don't want to get distracted. So the idea was, when he is lying down, he is called Padmanabha, Padmanabha. So he is lying down, from him arises the lotus. In that lotus lies the creative energy of Brahma, who produces the universe and all its dimensions. So you can imagine, from that lotus comes infinity, the ability to bloom. When the lotus blooms, creation happens. And the blooming never stops, creation never ends, and is always expanding. So Ananga Kusuma is infinite flower, the capacity to bloom infinitely. So we meditate ideally on a lotus. White lotus, red lotus, really it doesn't matter at this point. It's just lotus. It is eventually, when you begin to understand these energies within you, you will take any one chakra and imagine that chakra opening in your heart, preferably the heart chakra. All right, so this is Ananga Kusuma. Now comes the beauty of this connection here. Let us see how I'm guided to explain this. The next one is Ananga Mekhala. Mekhala. Ananga Mekhala. Ananga Mekhala. Ananga Mekhala. Mekhala is a belt, a strap, a girdle. Okay, anything that goes around. Now, girdle, strap, belt, Mekhala is what? Is a circle. What is circle? Circle also is a symbol for infinity. Because once a circle is in place, ask yourself, where does it start? Where does it stop? What is the starting point of the circle? Nobody knows. Right? The loop. The loop. So that is the beauty of the girdle. Now, the serpent in the Kundalini Tantra, because all of this is linked to the Kundalini energy. How is it pictured? Now, some of you might have some mental block with the idea of serpents, so just put that aside. Just why did they use a symbol of serpent? I'm going to explain to you right here in this girdle. The circle is coiled and the tail is in its mouth. So once, as it is, if you go in search of a long snake, you wouldn't search, I know. But there are times I've seen the snakes in Puttaparthi and you look and you see, oh God, this snake, it just goes on. Where is the head? Where is the tail? I don't know. It just seems to go on and on. You're looking for the head and suddenly you're seeing the tail here. So it seems infinite. But here in the tantric visualization in this girdle, what they are telling us is when the snake puts the tail in its mouth, it becomes a circle. It could be 1, 2, 3 circles and the tail in its mouth. And therefore what happens is it resembles or symbolizes infinity, waiting to bloom. So the lotus blooms. Okay? Look at the beauty of this now. Now we are getting into a deeper meditation, which is taking us step by step to a beautiful visualization in this. They are not separate, disconnected energies. So the lotus blooms, and in the lotus lies this girdle. Girdle is better, right, than snake, so let's stick to girdle. I just gave you the idea of snake because of the Kundalini energy, but we'll keep that aside. We will stick to girdle. Girdle means circular energy. There is a vibrating energy, girdle, which is infinite. In that, as it blooms, that energy reveals itself. So the second petal reveals an infinite energy that lies within this flower. And we have so many such flowers in us. Each one is a door to that infinity. Please don't make a mistake. For those of you who are students of yoga, students of the Kundalini, or studying it, or simply just curious about it, don't ever mistake in understanding these chakras are within us. What is within us are keys to the cosmic chakras. We only hold keys. Those places, of course, we talk of it as Mooladhara, Swadhisthana, and it's easier to go there. But what is there is actually a key that opens door to infinity. So we have 6 such doors. And the experiences are very different. Anyway, that's something for you to remember. So the girdle is there inside this flower. Ananga Mekhala. So you have Ananga Kusuma, Ananga Mekhala. Sudarshana Chakra in Lord Vishnu's hands, going round and round and round and round, is that girdle energy. The snake around Shiva's neck is the girdle energy. Round and round and round. So the girdle energy signifies bondage, and it also signifies freedom from bondage. That is something we need to meditate upon, contemplate upon. When I am bound to certain worldly things, temporary things. I get attached and I want it to belong to me. In other words, I'm bound to me. Then it becomes finite. That is not the girdle they are talking about. So don't let the idea of belt or strap or girdle create an energy of containment. That is not the girdle we are talking about. Because when I say this microphone belongs to me, then this belongs to me, and therefore I and me put a limitation there. That's what happened with Ravana, right? He wanted the supreme Shakti to belong to him. So he said Sita should belong to me, rather than saying I belong to Sita. He said Sita belongs to me. It's very interesting because Baba would also say this many times. You students always are so proud. You keep saying Swami is ours, Swami is ours. That is not what should be. You should say we belong to Sai. Sai doesn't belong to you. Sai doesn't belong to anyone, he would say. We belong to Sai. An organization belongs to Sai. An individual belongs to Sai. The world belongs to Sai. Sai belongs to no one. Sai is free. We are part of Sai. Sai does not belong to us. So to say that divinity belongs to us, that means that is not the Mekhala. That is perhaps just the Mekhala, that is not Ananga Mekhala. Ananga Mekhala is infinite girdle. It is an energy that is generated when we focus on that blooming of the flower, that infinite blooming of the flower. Now, to explain this in a very simple manner, as I was contemplating on analogies of how I can explain this, we say that, oh gosh, in spiritual sadhana, I make a mistake, I skip a couple of days, I feel lazy, then again I come back to my sadhana, and again I keep going for a couple of weeks, and then something comes up, and I have a late party or something, and I skip the next day's meditation. I feel so bad. It seems to be that I'm going in circles again and again. I'm not really progressing. That's why we make the mistake. The fact that we are on this path, no matter how many times we fail, we are entering into the Ananta Mekhala. Ananta Mekhala. As long as those breaks are only once in a while, like once in 2 weeks or whatever it is, once in a while, right? So what happens is we make a mistake, okay, we jump back to the bandwagon, and then we continue the sadhana. We miss something, all right, come back, keep doing the same sadhana. Then we feel, oh gosh, I'm doing the same thing again and again. For example, we do the same asanas again and again. Why don't you give us more variety of asanas in a class? I love variety. What is the use of doing same thing again and again? What is the use of doing the same physical exercise again and again? When we do these things again and again, the neural paths are formed. The body the body doesn't stagnate yet. It doesn't. It's getting stronger. It's getting more flexible. All of that is happening. So the asana is the same, and a beginner person uses a prop, uses a belt, uses a yoga block, and learns it. The same asana is done by somebody who's done for 10 years. He or she is bending gracefully, breathing deeply, and they are in that pose, mind, body, and spirit with all the bandhas in place. Asana is the same. But this person is in the infinite Mekhala. This person is getting there with practice. And what gets him there is going round and round and round with the same asana. Keep practicing the same asana. Keep practicing the same asana. You will think, oh gosh, I'm doing the same thing, but progress happens. We all know this, correct? So consistency is the magic word here. Constancy is the magic word here. An occasional drop-off really doesn't matter. But in that consistency, in that constancy, we enter into Ananga Mekhala. Ananga. There is no limit to this. Infinite. The circle energy circle, or the circle of energy. Energy of circle of energy. Well, circular energy, circle of energy. All right. Circle of energy is created. And that is infinite. Once you get into a circular pattern, once you get into a consistent pattern, then that pattern begins to generate a powerful energy. That is why we do japa 108 times. That's why we do japa for a longer time or meditation for a longer time, because we want to create that circular energy. Circular energies means consistency. Anything that is consistent begins to become circular in nature. And then after a while, when you're chanting Om Bhagavan Sri Satya Sai Babaya Namaha, Om Sai Ram, Om Namah Shivaya, Om Aim Hrim Shrim, whatever it is that we are chanting, after a while, you have to get lost into that. There is no ending, there is no beginning. It just goes on and on and on and on. Okay? That's why the Aim Kleem Sauhu, Sauhu Kleem Aim is a very powerful mantra when we begin the Sri Vidya, when we begin to learn the Devi Khadgamala. Aim Kleem Sauhu, Sauhu Kleem Aim. What has happened? We have completed a circle in the mantra. Very rare mantras are there like that. This is one of those. Aim Kleem Sauhu, Sauhu Kleem Aim. Aim Kleem Sauhu, Sauhu Kleem. We're coming back. So it completes the power of the mantra with Bijaksharas. So it becomes a girdle. And that girdle is Ananta Mekhala, which will open your mind to infinity. Will open that flower blooms, and within the bloom flower you will find Ananta Mekhala. That is the beauty of this chakra. This is so beautiful. Then we go on to the third one. And that is Ananga Madana. Madana. This energy that is inside, this circular energy that is inside, what is the state of that energy at this point? This circular energy. Is it bright and vibrating and alive and waiting to take you places? At this moment, it is intoxicated. It is self-contained, intoxicated. Shiva is said to be intoxicated. It is unfortunate that we say, okay, even Shiva is intoxicated, so it's okay for me to get intoxicated, and we drink bhang and all of that in India. I think that is an unfortunate part of it. Nevertheless, the intoxication of Shiva is this. He is intoxicated in that infinite circular energy. What is that? Aham, 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 I am. That I am. That we learn in Judaism. When Moses went up the hill, what did he see? I am that I am. I am that I am. I am that I am. Just the I am principle. The I am principle. You're lost in that I am principle. You're contained in the self. It's intoxicated in that principle. So this lotus opens. The girdle reveals herself. And within that girdle lies this intoxicated energy. In fact, in other words, the girdle herself, that energy that is there. I want to go back to that snake analogy because that's how I visualize it. The snake that is holding the tail in its mouth is intoxicated. It's coiled, right? Snake is coiled, holding the tail in her mouth, and she is intoxicated. Intoxicated state. Intoxicated could be understood as latent. Intoxication can be understood as completely just absorbed. Because when you identify yourself with the higher self does not undergo any change. The higher self was always completely absorbed in itself. It needs nothing. So when we go into that and realize that Shakti within us, we get into this Ananga Madana, eternally intoxicated. And so there is another version of this where you say Devi and Shakti and Shiva are eternally intoxicated in love. Eternally intoxicated. That's what it means. That oneness is state of completely being intoxicated. The highest kind of bliss. It's not a normal bliss. That state is represented in that petal. So the girdle of energy that is lying latent is an intoxicated state. And when you meditate on that intoxicated state, and I'll stop with this, maybe a shorter class, but it's important for us to just meditate on these rather than me try to finish everything in one class. Ananga Madanatura, Ananga Madanatura. Last one was, let's go back to that. Last one was Ananga Madana. Madana, remember this word. And now we go to Ananga Madana Tura. This is the beauty of this. Ananga Madana Tura. Madana Tura is infatuation, love lone, wanting more and more, feeling deprived of love and wanting more love. So that kind of thing. I use the word infatuation mindfully because it just means there is an energy that wants this, that craves for this. What is that? Because of that intoxication, that energy within us is not only intoxicated, but it's capable of making us. It is capable of making us lovesick. Once I taste the nectar of God's love, nothing else matters. Nothing else will interest me in this life. Many of you, many of us in this group, many of us who are listening, if you have listened this far, I know you would have experienced this. The fact that you're listening more and reading more and trying to understand more is because nothing in this world is creating that sense of complete satisfaction. I'm yearning for something more. I'm yearning to see God, experience divinity within me, and that becomes an infatuation. In Maharashtra, there's a whole list of saints, so many to mention. Tukaram, Namdev, Sakhubhai, Gora Khumbar. They represented this state, Madanatura. So they will sing Vitthala and get completely lost. When you enter that state, when you feel that you're in touch with divinity, it becomes intoxicating. It becomes that the bliss is so overwhelming that nothing else matters at that point. So it is with the stories of these. Mirabai is one fine example. She was so much in love with Krishna, she got so intoxicated in that love that nothing else mattered. And therefore in the Sri Chakra, now we are entering this beautiful experience of just not observing the energy within us, divinity within us lying in its intoxicated state, but now that we are entering, saw that, had darshan of that, we are getting intoxicated with that. Not only is she intoxicated, in other words, she is capable of making everybody around her intoxicated in her love. Everybody wants the divine Shakti. Everybody wants the divine mother. Everybody wants that love, that mercy, that grace, that presence. Nothing else, just the presence. So Ananga Madanatura. So imagine how beautiful it is. When you enter the third gate here, you first, a lotus presents itself. And as you meditate on the lotus, then you realize this is Ananga Kusuma, not an ordinary Kusuma, not an ordinary flower, but this blooming has unending potential. And therefore you meditate on the Ananga Kusuma. And as the lotus opens, you look within, you see Ananga Mekhala, a girdle and energy that is vibrating, which seems infinite in its capacity to expand. Because circle it doesn't have to stop, right? So it can expand infinitely. Some of you might say, what about a line? A line can also expand infinitely. Hang on to that thought. It's coming. So a circle expands infinitely. So Ananga Mekhala. The beauty of this Mekhala has so many meanings. She circles you with her love. She encircles you. And then you realize this energy that I'm meditating upon is completely self-absorbed energy. It's intoxicated energy. This Devi, she's lost in her Shiva. And Shiva is lost in Shakti. And that is intoxicated state of oneness and love. Nothing can disturb them. They are intoxicated. That's what the meaning of intoxicated is, right? Under the influence of oneness. So don't drive if you're under the influence of oneness. So, under the influence, DUI, of oneness. And And once your mind goes into that, then you want that. I want to be there. I want to go there. I want to experience that. And that creates a madanatura. This is not a simple wanting in that sense of a desire. This is madanatura. This is a very different feeling. I'm using words which may not sound very positive, like craving and all of that, because there is no other really English words that can explain, or infatuation or passion. These are words to give you an idea, but madanatura is a lot more than that. Your whole soul yearns for that. It is nothing else begin to satisfy you anymore. We are at, and we spend many lifetimes just in this one particular petal. We can spend lifetimes. Why? Because we are not happy with what's going on. We are not satisfied here, and we are not able to go there. We get caught in the trisanku, if you will, neither here nor there. Right? Na ghatka na dobi, na gharka, right? Gharka na ghatka, we say, right? So it is neither here nor there, and we are stuck in the middle, and we feel stuck. And that's a good sign to be there, because that is madanatura. Because you're craving, you're wanting, you're yearning. Why? Because you have tasted the bliss of divinity. You have tasted the love of the Divine Mother. You have tasted a little bit of that grace. You have felt divinity in your heart. If it has not happened to you, you will not understand madanatura. But if you have come this far, you will know what I'm talking about. And that's why you are even here listening to this. That deep yearning to understand, that is madanatura. It's a very beautiful energy. So let us not mistake ourselves thinking, how long will I be stuck here, and what is this and what is that. That is that madanatura that makes us very uncomfortable. It causes pain, it causes that yearning for divinity, because we have realized how beautiful it is to be in that company. You know, we lived 15 years with Baba, right? And not even once when he called us, we said, oh, let's take our own time, yaar. I've been there so many times. We would run, as if it was the very first time. It is very hard for some of you who may not have experienced that, but I can't think of any other way to explain this, because I've experienced it personally at a very physical level. So no amount of being in that presence was ever satisfactory. No amount. We would always hesitate coming out of that room, his room, because he said, no, go, time up. And we would always be, oh gosh, I wish 5 more minutes. It never ends. It never ended. So it is that madanatura, is that beautiful craving. Again, I said the word craving is not, I'm not happy with it, but I use the word infatuation maybe. I've still to come across a good word for that. But yearning is perhaps a good word. Madana and madanantura. So that energy is self-intoxicated, and the moment you realize how deeply intoxicated Shiva and Shakti are, you want that. And so that energy makes you madanatura. This is how beautiful this journey into the Sri Chakra is. So imagine, this is the third Avarna. When we go to the ninth and we sit in the presence of the Devi herself, how powerful it would be. This is why this kind of learning was considered and guarded very safely, so that people don't misunderstand it or misuse it and then reduce it to a meaningless ritual. It cannot be. It's not that you shouldn't or couldn't do it. You could, but then there is so much depth into this. So don't worry about, can I do this puja every day? Should I do it once a week? Eventually, when we learn it as a ritual or as a puja, don't worry about every day or every week. First, understand every petal, meditate on every petal. You could take a day to meditate on every name. And like I said, 182 names is about 6 months. Take 6 months to complete one cycle and start another cycle from the summer solstice, and start one cycle from the winter solstice. And so solstice to solstice, meditate on each of these energies lying within us. Only good can come. Spiritual growth then will just come to your doorstep. The grace will flow, believe me. And I say this from my heart. But if you reduce it and you rush to reduce it to a puja, a ritual, and I'm doing this 108 times every day, I'm going to do this, I made up my mind and all of that, which is all good. But if you reduce it and then because of time constraint, you finish this entire chant in 10 minutes and 5 minutes and 15 minutes, which you can if you want to. There are apps that are available that will say all this chant in about 15 minutes. We can do that. But then this kind of contemplation, this kind of depth in each of this is lost. And therefore we could spend 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, and no real transformation is really experienced. And therefore, be very patient in this learning. Contemplate on each word, meditate on each word. Remember, it is just any one of these Devis can take you to Parashakti. Anyone can take you. We don't have to go all one by one, one by one. So each one, we don't know which Devi is waiting for you. We don't know who's your angel, who's your Devi. I don't know who's my Devi, so I respect everyone. And when I face every one petal, I bow to that energy, knowing that this could be the energy that can take me to Devi, to that ultimate experience. And that's how we approach the Sri Chakra. That's how we meditate on the Sri Chakra. Let us end the satsang, and we'll study the next 4 petals in the next class with a simple bhajan. Thank you as always for joining this class.
Matre Namaha. Om Shri 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 Matre Namaha.
Om Shri Matre Namaha. Om Shri Matre Namaha.
Om Shri Matre Namaha. Om Shri Matre Namaha.
Om Shri Matre Namaha. Om Shri Matre Namaha.
Amba Parameshwari Akhilandeshwari Adi Parashakti Palayamam.
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 Om Shri Matre Namaha. Om Shri Matre Namaha.
Om Shri Matre Namaha. Om Shri Matre Namaha. Om Shri Matre Namaha. Om Shri Matre Namaha.
Amba Parameshwari Akhilandeshwari Adi Parashakti Palayamam. Shri Bhuvaneshwari Rajarajeshwari. Shri Bhuvaneshwari Rajarajeshwari आनन्दरूपिणि पालय माम् आनन्दरूपिणि पालय माम्
ॐ श्री मात्रे नमः ॐ श्री मात्रे नमः ॐ श्री मात्रे नमः ॐ श्री मात्रे नमः
ॐ श्री मात्रे नमः ॐ श्री मात्रे नमः
ॐ श्री मात्रे नमः ॐ श्री मात्रे
नमः अम्बा परमेश्वरि अखिलाण्डेश्वरि आदिपराशक्ति पालय माम् श्री भुवनेश्वरि राजराजेश्वरि श्री भुवनेश्वरि राजराजेश्वरि आनन्दरूपिणि पालय माम् आनन्दरूपिणि पालय माम्
ॐ श्री मात्रे नमः 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 ॐ श्री मात्रे नमः
समस्तलोकाः सुखिनो भवन्तु समस्तलोकाः सुखिनो भवन्तु समस्तलोकाः सुखिनो भवन्तु ॐ
May all the beings in all the worlds be happy.
जय बोलो पवन सुत हनुमान की जय सियावर रामचंद्र की जय सतगुरु साईनाथ महाराज की जय नमः पार्वती पतये हर हर महादेव ओम शांति शांति शांति